it is a T3 Tuesday, so we're going to bring on a guest for you here today. We have a new T3 trader, so let's give a warm welcome here to Charlie Moon. Let's go ahead and bring him on. Charlie, good morning. How you doing, my man?
Good morning, Ryan. How's it going?
It is going really well. Folks, learn how to use Charlie's AI system to pinpoint high profit potential trade setups, even in the most volatile markets. I can't wait to ask you about that, Charlie. AI is the rage right here, so I definitely want to hear about your system. But before we dive into that, I ask all of the T3 traders the same thing. And since this is our first time here together, we're going to start with this. Can you talk to the viewers about your morning routine and how you prepare for the market trading day?
Yeah, that's, for one, as a trader, structure is always good. So it's pretty repetitive. I wake up, first thing I do is check my phone to see what news is out. Always checking to see if there's anything, relative to, the scope of the broad market that could shift the landscape or any specific news that's pertaining to stocks. The one that's really kind of drawing my interest is Viking Therapeutics this morning.
Okay.
And, I'm always looking for an opportunity, especially on stocks that can move. And that's really kind of my basis and thesis. Focus on something that a lot of people are going to be looking at. It's going to draw a lot of volume, a lot of volatility, which always equals opportunity, short term and long term. And so for me, that's kind of how I start my day. I basically wake up, brush my teeth, go straight to the office, turn on the PC. I'm looking at my news feed. I don't really watch too much financial news, so to speak. I'm always on, news feeds. So X is one of my primary sources, which sounds funny, but I'm always on X. I'm always searching through my apps, email alerts, and then after that, once my PC's fired up, I'm looking at charts right away and looking at structure and opportunity from there. And I try not to have too biased of a game plan, whether it's going to be up or down. I just want to know where the ranges or the scope of moves can be. And so I plan around that as opposed to just going in with a biased direction, whether I want to be long or short. You never really want to fade the tape, as they say. So,
that sounds like a really good approach, right? You're ready for whatever the market presents to you. So just to get this straight, you have no crazy morning routine like a cold plunge or a sauna like Scott. You're just doing the regular stuff like the rest of us, brushing your teeth, getting ready for the day.
yeah, it's I'm in mountain time, so my day starts I guess a little earlier, which is
Yes, it
later
does.
for the East Coast. So, for me, it's once I'm up and going, people are already a little bit ahead of where I've been. So I'm playing catch up for the most part in the
Yeah,
morning.
that I totally get it. Now we were just talking. We've got a lot of folks that log in here from the Pacific and the Mountain Time Zone. Definitely more difficult the further you get away from East Coast time. Okay, let's talk about your AI system here. Can you tell us about it? How it works? How does it identify stocks? What do you look for? And if you want to tie that to Viking, that would be great because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of folks that are interested in this stock here today. So if we want to use this as the example, beautiful, perfect timing. Tell us about your AI system.
Yeah, so it's a machine called Trade Machine. It's created by a gentleman named Ophir who uh the issue with AI systems, especially over the last 8 years that I've been looking into it, is that it's always been a trader that's been telling an engineer or a dev or a programmer what it wants, and there's always something lost in translation. It's just never been effective. The difference in this situation is that Ophir is a trader who's also a dev engineer. I mean, he's an extremely smart gentleman. This guy is a quant. He's contracted by hedge funds, but more importantly, he's a trader as well. So he understands the dynamics of trading. And that's really where I have found this system to be really highly effective, is that it is a system built for traders by a trader. This essentially is targeting technical based setup. So it's utilizing a algo setup of um, technical alignment and price action. And then it's going to whittle it down based on historical reference. The historical reference won't veer back too far. It wants to be relative in the more current market environment. So it's tracking data over the last 3 years. And then if it likes the performance, then it's gonna the system, that large language model, is basically gonna, kind of gauge it in this current environment and see what the probabilities of success is.
So let me just pause you right there. You're talking about past performance. Is this almost like a seasonality type thing with a 3-year look back period as opposed to like a traditional 10-year look back period?
So that's a great question. There's some categories that are going to be based on seasonality, pre-earnings trades, for example. But no, this is actually based on technical structure. So it's based on how stocks will behave around key technical levels that it's looking at.
Okay.
And it's kind of taken the incorporation of price action, short-term bullish behavior weighted against short-term price action, weighted versus longer term. And so it's trying to pick up on these nuances of, maybe, a rise in sentiment or a rise in renewed interest, or strength in performance. And again, it's just gauging it under the current market environment, and then it just spits these names out to you. And then, you as a human, certainly the machine is not going to be 100% correct.
Of course.
Even with setups that can have high probability, it doesn't matter. You still have to kind of gauge it and really kind of filter it within yourself to see, is this going to be a trade that's worth taking in this environment, regardless of the metrics? And so that's kind of what I use. I use the system plus my previous history of trading plus my, I'm not a fundamentalist. I'm a technician. I'm a chartist. I've always traded behind the screen since 2007. So it's something that I can relate to. And so I'm incorporating my skill set with this opportunity, or with these names that are being presented as opportunities. And then I kind of just, gauge which ones I want to have consideration for, which ones I would just kind of cool off on. So.
Okay. Folks, if any of that sounds interesting to you, learn how to use Charlie's AI system to pinpoint high profit potential trade setups, even in the most volatile markets. I threw the link in the chat. There's also a QR code if you want to scan that to get access to that. Okay, so the next question that I wanted to ask you is, what do you, or the system, what do you like right now? You kind of already gave me one with VKTX. So can we talk about this? Can we start with VKTX?
Sure. It looks like the reaction today is off of their obesity pill, and initially jumped up to around $61, which is a huge jump in premium. They were trading at 42.09 at the
Yep.
close. Right now they're down to 27.70. So based on what the AI system would look at in terms of historical reference, if the stock has had some major sell-offs and the likelihood of a rebound is very high, it would probably fit under a category called buy the sell off. It would take a spread based approach versus just buy an outright call. And again, it would only recommend this if two things: one, if the price performance is relegated to an opportunity; number two, if it has a past history of success relative to a drawdown, something like this. So if it gets flagged, I'll be highly interested. It's at a price point of great value. It's sustaining above their 52-week lows, so that's already a positive in that sense. But again, something that we're going to have to watch early. We don't want to end up buying at 27 if it's going to head down to 22. We could just be patient until then.
Okay, so do you have any levels that you're looking at? I know you just said 27 and 22. I'm looking at just kind of the hourly chart here. I noticed that I hate to use it. We crashed all the way back to where we were back in July. So we really just kind of moved back down to some of these July levels. This actually looks like a pretty good consolidation level. Looks like maybe 26 might be a decent support. Any other key levels that you have here for ticker VKTX?
Yeah, that 26 congestion level is definitely a level to watch. 2380, which is the swing low of June 23rd, is going to be critical, because without that level, it really opens the door for them to revisit somewhere around 20 to 18. And I don't think, at least so far from what I've seen, it's certainly trading outside the two standard deviations on that hourly chart. Uh, you know, the hourly lows at 25.30, so it kind of lines up with that 26. It definitely staying above that 23.80. So, if that's going to be that sweet spot, this is where we could look for that sharp rebound. And again, with these type obesity type plays, we've seen the snapbacks in these names. Um, it wasn't like the trials ending. I guess there were some, endpoints in terms of data that Wall Street didn't like. I didn't read too significantly into it, but the trial's showing some success, and certainly they're not ending the trial. So, for me, this is going to be a potential rebound candidate if they can remain above this 25.30 level. If they break down, then they're going to apply a lot of pressure on 23.80, and that's where I always have, it's always a 50-50 moment at that price
Mhm.
when we break down these key pre-market lows. So if it sustains above 25.30, I love the rebound idea. I think it could be as high as 39.40. I'm
Okay.
not sure if it could happen today, but it wouldn't surprise me. Stocks like this, especially pharmaceutical based stocks, could always bounce back, especially if Wall Street is a believer in the future as opposed to just a initial reaction off the trial news. So this is going to be something to watch here this morning.
Yeah, and absolutely. And we've actually taken a look at VKTX quite a bit. That's like you said, that's one of the stocks that has kind of this inherent volatility. Let me ask you, when you see something like this, does this cause you to think at other similar names? Like, for example, HIMS, which has also been a very volatile name. It's been really good for traders. They have a GLP-1 angle. There's a lot of talk here about Lilly. One of our viewers here, VKTX trial showed the same results as Lilly, and Lilly's actually up here today. Does
Yeah.
this factor into your trading plan at all? Do you look at metrics like this?
Yeah, 100%. We always it's really simply put the carry trade, right? In this world, obviously, if someone struggles, either they're going to take the ship down with them, or there's going to be others that are going to benefit from their overall price reaction. And it looks like Eli Lilly right now is going to be one of those names. Now, for me, Eli Lilly, they had that struggle, since earnings, but they bounced back nicely over the last week. They're starting to recover above their short-term moving averages, but Eli Lilly's had some difficulties sustaining, their gains. They've gotten up to this right around 800, $815 price and keep getting knocked back down. It's been very suppressed underneath this 200-day moving average.
Yep.
This is a company that stands to just absolutely crush it in the long term. They've addressed their production issues. They're going to really be the leader, in my opinion, in this field. Um, I understand that, like Wegovy is one of those names that, could be their number one competitor, but it really looks like Eli Lilly stands to really be at the top of the hill here. I believe Zepbound is their primary GLP-1 along with Ozempic. I'm not
Yep.
sure if it was Ozempic is underneath them, but I know Zepbound's making a lot of noise. It's been proven that their results are going to be better or have been better than Wegovy, and they're going to be able to fix. Well, I guess they're already working on their margins by increasing production at their Wisconsin facility. And by 2026, this should be a really well-oiled machine. This is a great long-term value, and obviously in the short term, could be a breakout play. I would say around 735 this morning, and anything above that would be around 761. So there's definitely some great opportunities off of this news for Viking Therapeutics. But Viking Therapeutics rallies strong, that could also, kind of tip the scales and then have that rotation go from Eli Lilly straight into BKTX as well this morning. So
Okay.
again, just once the bell opens, we'll get a better feel and kind of nuance of what Wall Street wants to do. And then, I always look for the coattails to ride here.
Sure. So we at least we have two targets here, and then yeah, that Zepbound Ozempic is the semaglutide or semaglutide
Yeah.
drug, and the Zepbound is their tirzepatide, which is I guess the newer one that has better results. Okay. Also, so HIMS. This is the other one that I wanted to mention. Do you trade HIMS at all? This is extremely volatile. I feel like we get asked about this on a regular basis. You have any outlook on HIMS based off the news here today, or otherwise, frankly?
Yeah, I love high beta names. So,
Okay.
certainly growth names that have good volatility. We've looked at some of the Astro plays like Lunar, ASTS, RKLB. But we've seen a lot more of that sustainability really focused on the growth nuclear names like OKLO,
Mhm.
SMR, NNE. But with HIMS, this was one of those high beta names where, unfortunately, I think the recent news is relegated to the FDA and the FDA investigation. So I don't know until there's some clarity about that. Whenever there's a shroud of concern, the move automatically by Wall Street investors is go risk off. Take the profits now. We'll figure it out later. If it's worth buying lower, then it'll be worth buying lower. And so this is kind of what I've seen. It's been in a really bearish state since earnings. They were extremely volatile. They were down big. They rallied to fill the gap. They've gotten underneath the 50, been slowly working. I think that they're a must watch around $40, and
Yep.
how they you know, interact with that price range along with the 200-day moving average there is going to be highly important because, if there's not enough buyers and investors at 40, then we're now, projecting somewhere back into that, breakout range or prior breakout range, sub 35 into 30. So, there's a stark difference from where they were just trading at, which was 70s. But HIMS is definitely a pretty interesting company. I'm not sure of FDA's stance on compound pharmacies, but this is by far the most popular one.
Yeah.
And again, if compound pharmacies are able to make it, again, HIMS is one of those companies that's positioned to be the leader in their field.
Okay, really good stuff here on HIMS. We're currently right at testing a trend line on the bottom side here. If we break that, I think your $40 price target is right, or excuse me, your $40 level is right on there. That actually lines up pretty good with the last low that we made back here at the end of June as well. So
Right.
I think you're spot on there. Lion here from the chat says, I can see HIMS coming back to 35. You also gave that level 30, between 30 and 35. There was a gap down there. Actually looks like a pretty good level as well. Okay, really good stuff here. I'll get you out on this. Is there anything else that you like here today that we haven't talked about?
Tesla's pretty
Let's do.
perky this morning. Um, Tesla's also been in one of those so it's been really weird, right? The market's been marching up here. We had that just kind of like 20-day period where the Qs just went up almost every single day. And, Apple and Tesla were not major players in that moment. Neither really was Meta. Meta finally broke out. Microsoft was a big part of that, but it was really funny to see that it was basically all of Nvidia, AMD, AVGO that was really kind of pushing the Qs along. It was the semiconductor or the AI component makers. And now we're starting to see a little bit more life in the Mag 7 names. Amazon just recently exploded last week. Apple got through their 200-day moving average and had like pretty much a $10 jump. And I think that Tesla is one of those names that we got to be on watch. I think that at least this morning, the price level that I'm watching is 340. I think about 340, they're making this run straight to 350. 350 has been a suppressive zone. And a lot of people have looked at Tesla. A lot of people have looked at Tesla's wedge pattern on the daily chart, and they've broken free. Usually with these breakouts and pullbacks, as long as they're sustaining above key levels, that's going to be really important. Well, they came down on Friday to test the 200-day moving average. They're deflecting away from it again, so that's always a bullish sign. There's buyers coming in on this dip, but I like this 340 breakout. I think it's a rise straight to 350, but it's really just it's going to be the eventual push to like 375. And with a name like Tesla, that could be done by Friday. So
Yeah, no,
this is what I'm watching here.
Yeah, you're absolutely right on that. We've seen a lot of big movement with Tesla. We currently have 350 to 360 being that next resistance area, that whole $10 area. But like you said, that can get cleared out in a day. All right, I'm getting asked by a number of different folks. They're all asking about the same thing. So Charlie, I lied. I got one more stock to ask you about here. And it kind of goes back to the fat drugs, as we collectively call them. What about NVO? We talked a lot about HIMS, Lilly. NVO here has a really, really awful looking chart. A couple of things here. NVO has more upside. NVO got to a level you can't ignore anymore. It looks like NVO has a lot of room to the upside. So what say you or your AI system about NVO? We're clearly in this like supply area back from all the way back in 2021. You think this has a chance of a move higher here?
Yeah, respectfully, I think everybody's looking for the next UNH.
Yeah.
And it's been basketed together, right? UNH, NVO, ACN. I don't doubt it, right? Like I said, I believe NVO is the maker of Wegovy. I look at this from a technical standpoint. For me, the breakout play is going to be above their gap bar. The gap bar is a July 29th high. That is the key price, 55.37. They're actually yesterday rejected right at the 21 EMA, 20 SMA level. So once we get past that price, which is 54 and three quarters, and then get past this 55.37, there's what I call a profit pocket. There's nothing that's from a technical standpoint going to be an effective range that sellers can lean on. And buyers are going to see this gapping, right? They're going to see this big spacing and they're like, all right, well, this is ready to make a run. So I would say set your alerts above this 55.73 price. Look for the stock to anchor above these short-term moving averages like the 21 EMA. And if they're holding above this level, then you're targeting that 50. That 50 SMA is at 64.65. So that's about $9 from that breakout price. And then the eventual gap fill, which is the closing price of July 28th, that's at 69 bucks. Once we get to 64, you can start targeting 69. Remember, we can't get to 69 unless we get past 64. So I really like that kind of breakout spacing. Again, NVO is a little gappy because it's an ADR, but it's really starting to pick itself up, a little bit of a V reversal. They're entering more and more into bullish zones on shorter time frames. I just think the final boss is going to be right around that 56 price. And once it clears, well, we'll see how Wall Street reacts.
Okay, that's awesome. And you just got yourself bonus points for saying the final boss level. That is absolutely awesome. You are going to fit in really well here with our community, Charlie. That's for sure. Folks, learn how to use Charlie's AI system to pinpoint high profit potential trade setups, even in the most volatile markets, in his live webinar. QR code on the screen. Link is in the chat. Charlie, awesome stuff here today. Great to meet you. Can't wait to have you back on. Have a good rest of your Tuesday. All right. Good luck today.
You as well, Ryan. Thank you.
You're welcome. That is it. In fact, Charlie Moon, folks, the T3 guys keep doing it.